A damning report into decades of abuse has found that council staff put vulnerable children in the path of sex offenders. These offenders were able to infiltrate foster care in children's homes with devastating, lifelong consequences for their victims, according to the report. Employees in the London borough of Lambeth treated children in care as if they were worthless and appeared to demonstrate a callous disregard for the vulnerable children they were paid to look after. According to the findings of the independent inquiry into sexual child abuse, that is.
Well, the inquiry heard evidence of children being raped, indecently assaulted and sexually abused, but said that of complaints from 705 former residents across 3 facilities, only 1 member of senior staff was ever disciplined, and when children reported complaints at the time, they were routinely disbelieved. And the report estimated that the number of those abused was likely much higher and recommended that the Metropolitan Police consider whether there are grounds for a criminal investigation, and that's particularly for 1 boy who died in the care home in 1977, who had previously complained of being abused by a senior staff member. Well, clearly very harrowing stuff. So let's go straight into it and talk to somebody who is sort of on the front line of dealing with child abuse. We're joined this morning by Marilyn Hawes, who's CEO and founder of Freedom from Abuse, which is a child abuse charity. Thank you so much for joining us. This is clearly a really difficult issue, and to some people it will be shocking, but the sad thing for me is that it's almost not, because we know that children in these settings are not treated well at all. We know this sort of thing has been going on, but why does it continue to go on at such a huge scale?
Because the children are vulnerable, and of course that's an attraction to any form of abuser. I mean, yesterday, what with this in Bradford and the rings up there with the exploitation, I mean, I am absolutely outraged at yesterday's news on every count. I mean, regarding the councils, I mean, they have failed on every humanitarian level. And this is paedophile rings on an industrial scale. And to think that they can wipe this clean and cover themselves in glory with an apology is utter nonsense. They have broken people's lives. We get to walk this planet once and once only. And they haven't broken the family China tea set. They have broken lives for which they should be made accountable. And the Metropolitan Police absolutely should be arresting and charging people that were in this corrupt cover-up. One lady I've been helping for 5 years. We don't get any funding. We're not one of these big charities attached to the government hip. We work 24/7. 5 years ago, I had a client, and I'm still helping her, and I would have to listen to her up till midnight nearly every night to stop her taking her own life. And feeding in fact, this is quite a good dovetail in from what you had previously about health, mental health, obesity, heart disease. It comes from these adverse childhood experiences. And this is what you're looking at. The lady, the doctor before, is looking at the fallout from these hideous things that happen today. Child abuse is a pandemic for which the only vaccine is education. We have people that act like the 3 wise monkeys. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to say about it because I don't want to believe it's happening. There was an abused child in every single street in Britain, if not more. It's as bad today as then, and we've got 700 people coming forward. It'll be many more than that. There'll probably be another 70% on top of that. And what I did yesterday, and I'm not a great mathematician, they said that they had paid up to 125,000 compensation. You can't compensate for this damage that's gone on. But if you do the maths, the average person would now be 50 to 60 years old, right? So dividing that into 125,000, it means for the heinous crimes that were meted on these youngsters, it works out at about £2,500 a year. That's peanuts.
Well, Claire Holland from Lambeth Council had this to say: the extent and scale of the horrendous abuse which took place over many decades remains deeply shocking. That's what the council said there.
Saying that it took place over many decades, obviously creating space between the current administration and what happened in the past.